My friend, listen up. I know the world is scary right now, but it's gonna get way worse.
Sorry to start this video off like it's the beginning of a YouTube apology.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
So I've kind of put the next video I was working on hold, just for this because, well, it's more time dependent issue, and it's probably more important to discuss than the next video I'm trying to release. Also, if you're looking for some funny, well, you're gonna find less of that here than you would in a regular video, because this is kind of a serious issue to me, at least. So there's been a few things that have come to light about New World recently. The final alpha patch for New World has finally dropped. Cool, great, wonderful. The New World team is continuing to polish and work on New World for its full release. Fantastic. And then they had to go and hit us with the premium currency shop internal testing.
No, God! No, God, please!
Now, for the record, I don't have alpha access. I haven't signed any of the alpha access NDAs, and I'm not under any of that, but this still might get me in trouble with the New World team. And to be honest, this might wreck any chance New World would want anything ever to do with me at all. But to me at least, this is more important of an issue than what the New World team thinks of me and my teeny tiny little channel. And I think anyone who even cares in the slightest about the wider state of MMOs or the potential of what New World could be needs to speak out about this as quickly and as soon as possible. And pray that the New World team, like with other criticisms, takes this into consideration, because they've done a good job of it so far, so there's a pretty decent chance that they might actually listen to us when it comes to this issue too. So it's been leaked through the alpha forums that the New World team is leaning towards some pay-to-win elements within the game, and this just does not bode well for the longevity of the game. It's not where you want to see an MMO go. So we're getting in-game purchases, and some I lean towards tolerating, whereas others I see as just downright unacceptable, especially if Amazon is aiming for this game to last longer than a few years. So what are they selling us in this in-game shop aside from a steaming hot plate of disappointment? Well, first off is the less egregious elements, including item skins, dyes, company crests, and emotes. Now, most of these changes I'm willing to tolerate because New World is not a subscription-based game, unless, well, there's more unforeseen changes coming. I can only really very naively hope that this means that any of that money generated from that would go back into improving the game, but I'd have to be blind and completely stupid, and, well, I'm the latter here, not the former. And we've seen this before in other MMOs, and it's never a pretty sight. My biggest issue with what we're seeing here, even though they are tolerable, is the item skins, because it devalues the hard work and effort people who actually play the game put in to make their character look cool as shit. One of the primary elements of playing an MMO is to put in your time, your effort, your energy to look better than some other player who hasn't done the same level of stuff as you. Now, if you can just buy your way to that point, you're kind of alienating your most loyal and invested players, because you're telling them that everything that they work towards, all the effort, the energy that they invest into this game is not nearly worth as much as someone who's just going to pay for the exact same thing. So the rest, the dyes, the company crests, and the emotes, I can kind of see as tolerable or even a necessary evil, under the distant and naive hope that the money will be reinvested back into making New World a better game than it currently is. I guess maybe I wouldn't have as much of an issue with this if you could still earn all these same rewards in-game by investing your time and effort, but that doesn't seem to be the angle they're aiming for with an in-game cash shop. And well, now that I've accustomed you to the flavor of hot garbage with a little bit of a taste test, we can kind of jump right in. So New World is looking at selling what they're calling quality of life items, or boosts that will help players improve their time spent leveling up their character and trade skill experience. And when it comes to the quality of life items, at least, that's just left me asking,
what the fuck does that even mean?
This could potentially be innocuous, but let's be honest, you don't throw something up for sale and not make it the most attractive option to your customers if you're trying to make money. If you've got shareholders and investors to please, then they become the clients AGS will care about, not the people paying for and playing the game. They slowly just become cash flow. It's highly unlikely that the New World team doesn't know what they're doing by keeping that term as vague as possible, and that's the concerning part to me. These kinds of quality of life items, if they're as bad as I think they might be, can well and truly fuck an MMO into irrelevance, and I'd absolutely hate to see that happen to New World. Even if, as they say, they're trying to keep the game fair with these systems present, that doesn't mean it's going to work. That is just a vague statement. We need specifics, we need numbers, we need metrics to figure that out. We need to know exactly what they're planning. How many times in how many other MMOs has this been tried before? Team has gone, screw 30% of the player base, as long as we can increase profitability, right? How many more times does that have to happen? And then there's the boosting on leveling and on trade skills. And that's exactly how you ruin a game in more ways than you would think. Firstly, congratulations. Any chance you have of having some legendary speedrunner like what Joker did with Classic WoW coming out and setting some crazy record is now diminished to all hell. I mean, why bother when you can just pay your way for easier leveling? And now, don't go out of your way to think that you're not paying for levels. You are paying for levels by paying for this boost. They are selling you an easier experience. That is paying for levels, it's just paying for levels with extra steps. Secondly, this creates massive problems for other components in the game. People will just boost their way towards being better crafters and skip the time investment required. This means inflation for the in-game economy. The value of being that one badass crafter that everyone knows about is worth way less now. The entire experience of the game becomes cheapened for those players who don't or can't pay for those boosts. The game in general begins to hold no weight or significance because you've told your most dedicated, hardcore players that they aren't worth nearly as much as the guy who's going to pay for everything, boost like crazy, and then likely quit the game after 3 months because you couldn't make as much time investment anyway. And as a game company, you're outright selling resources to the players by making crafting easier, by making every form of leveling easier. Now, there's a lot of arguments to be made against this, but this is basically the same old death of 1,000 cuts we've seen in every single MMO out there. It's always, oh, it's just a little boost, nothing significant, but repeated 100 times in 100 different ways within the game, and that really begins to add up. You end up with these systems where paying for a boost becomes necessary if you want to play the game at any form of competitive level. Now, there's tons of problems with doing this in an MMO, and the points I'm making here are just kind of scratching the surface, but really, if possible, I'd like to not pull a mad season and have to make an hour-long video on the entire topic.
What the fuck is that?
This entire setup for pay to win is a slippery slope. And to illustrate my point a little better, I'm going to draw you a graph so you understand. Now, usually with an MMO, we start at the top of the hill. We start in this state of the game. The game is worth its money, it's worth your time. You play the game, you get better at the game, and well, if you dedicate a lot of time to the game, well, you become someone great, you do something amazing that very few people have accomplished, and you're just better than other people in the game because you've done those things. So that's when the cracks start to show. That's when you end up with a few in-game purchases. Nothing too significant, nothing, you know, very consequential to the game itself. Maybe a mount here or a skin there, maybe a purchase for some extra bag slots or two. So then a few months later, you end up in the state where you hear something along the lines of, well, the players didn't seem to mind too much when we added in these teeny tiny things, so we'll just add in this teeny tiny little other thing that won't change the game very much. It'll be inconsequential, it'll be insignificant, don't worry. And at some point, you end up where you're giving full in-game services. This is server transfers, this is name changes, this is gender changes, this is a whole bunch of stuff that seems good for the game, that seems like, oh, we're working towards the longevity of the game. We want people to be able to swap servers and play with their friends. Then, a few months later, we hear the exact same excuse coming out. And it's, oh, well, it seems all these in-game services weren't too big of a deal. We'll just add in a little thing where you can boost your character. I mean, what's the big deal? We don't want to end up alienating players, or we've got new players coming into the game and they want to play with their friends, and their friends are high level. So we'll just have this little service where they can boost their level. Now we can rinse, repeat that entire cycle until we end up right down here in a place I call the EA Games Zone. And I'm pretty sure we all know about EA Games at this point.
EA Games. I need your money!
Now tell me, where's there left to go if a game that's hoping to last at least a decade, that has a decade-long plan, is already starting at the bottom of the hill? Where's there left to go? Can we expect that in 2 to 3 years we'll have to purchase DLC to have in-game audio? Maybe your character can only walk until you pay the ransom to them to unlock the sprint button. Now, I think the worst part to me is that Amazon isn't stupid. They even know how to do this right. They've made sure the first crack rock is free for people within the alpha access by giving all players a few of their pay-to-win Mark of Fortune currency. Now, people are going to use those marks because why wouldn't they? They were given them for free and they get to experience new parts of the game because of it. This then goes and gives Amazon the excuse that, oh, but look at how many people are using them. Obviously, players want this, and if they're real smart about it, for the full game release, they'll end up Fallout 76ing us and making sure you end up with an unusable amount of in-game currency just sitting there in your bag so that you'll have to buy more to use what they've already given you. I want to make this clear, I'm not making this video to discourage people from playing the game. I'm making this video because I genuinely care about the game and its longevity. The preview event, for all its problems, was some of the most fun I've had in an MMO in years. I still, every now and then, think about all the stuff I did in that game. I think about the friends I made. I think about all the crazy shit Iconic made me do. And it brings a real smile to my face. I want this game to be good. I want this game to be the game that people remember 5 to 10 years down the line, either still playing it or the memories they made just putting a smile on their face, and this game being significant enough to have been remembered as something that changed the industry. Now, this last part is a message to the New World team. I'm speaking to you as a professional here, as someone who's worked in an industry as an operations manager and a project manager, someone who does have at least some working experience relating to product releases and operational longevity of a business. If you want this game to last more than 12 months, if you want your game to redefine the MMO genre and show that an action combat system within this kind of world is viable, then please remove this from the game and don't ever put it back in. Sure, you'll almost undoubtedly make more money by throwing it into the game immediately, but in return you'll have smeared your reputation into the dirt. New World will have gone from being that legendary game that, well, people grew up playing and becoming just a passing joke about how completely unsalvageable the entire MMO industry is. By placing these kinds of elements into your MMO, you have to accept that this may make your game just another footnote of a joke with what the MMO industry has become, where players don't remember you as something great and wonderful who did something magical for the industry, but they'll remember someone like Ashes of Creation instead, or another MMO, someone else, but you'll just be another example of how to not do an MMO. You want this game to last a decade, but if you go down this path, you might not last more than 3 or 4 years total. And at the end, you won't have an MMO, you'll just have a kind of payment system. And I want you to remember that you can trade your reputation and dignity for shareholder profitability. But that's a one-way trade, and there's no going back once you've done it. But anyway, serious face off now. Big thank you to all my subscribers, new and old. And if you're an MMO fan and you even mildly care about this game, then I hope you speak out about this, and I hope that you take this issue up, because this will not stop, it'll only get worse over time. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Bye. You're fighting so you can watch everything you've built die. Think, Amazon. How are you gonna last a decade if you're already throwing in pay-to-win elements? What will you have after even just 1 year?
In-game cash.